Okay, so, sorry my desk is squeaking for some reason today. But, so if you look, this is slope intercept form. It's always going to be written as an equation, y equals mx plus b. There will be numbers in all of these places, so I'm going to tell you what each of these things mean. So the y is, the y is the y coordinate. Sorry, I turned it. Y coordinate from a point on a line. So the y equals the y coordinate from a point on a line. So y, usually when we have equations, the y is just going to always be there. Okay, then the m. M is always a weird letter. I was talking to another teacher about where m comes from. It's actually not known. They think that some teacher one day just decided to use m, and that's what everybody started using. So m, I like to make my m to look like a mountain. So it's going to be my little mountain, my little m, because it stands for slope. If you've ever watched the video Slope Dude, it makes m makes me think of mountain, like hitting the slopes. I don't know, I'm weird, and I try to think of weird things to remind me. So remember, slope is change in y over change in x, or you can also say it as rise over run. So if I want to find the slope of this graph right here, remember, look for points that are on the line. Well, there's one, and that one's too low, that one's too high, there's another one. So between those 2 points, it's down 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'd say down 4 and over 1, 2, 3. So my slope would be -4 thirds. So that would be the slope. Okay, the x is the same type of thing as the y. The x equals the x coordinate from the same point on the line. And then the b, the last one, let me find a color. There's blue. Did I use blue? No. So the b, oh, and that's not even blue. Here's blue. The b is the y-intercept. So the b is the y-intercept where the line crosses the y-axis. So it's where it crosses the y-axis. So that would be this point right here. The way I remember the b is there's the line straight up and down like the y-axis, and it's the point where it crosses. So wherever the point crosses the y-axis. I don't know, that's another dumb thing. But so that would be -2 is my y-intercept. So if we're looking at this line right here, this same line, the y would just be written as y. Then we have equals. Our slope would be -4 thirds x plus -2, or you could write it as minus 2. Remember, plus a negative is the same thing as just subtracting a 2. Okay? If we pulled one of these points, so I'm going to use this point right here, which is at 0, negative 2. So if I was going to use the point 0, negative 2, this is x, this is y. So negative 2 equals negative 4/3, 0, and then our y-intercept is negative 2. So all this x and y tells you is that if you wanted to check your work, you could. Can check equation using the point. So in most cases, you will never see it where the x and y value are listed. That's just if you wanted to check to see that your point or your equation was correct. You could plug in x value, you could plug in y value, and you could make sure that this actually gave you this answer. Well, if you have anything times 0, that would be 0 minus 2. So 0 minus 2 is negative 2. Well, negative 2 equals negative 2. So you can tell that you wrote your equation right. All right, now let's look at these ones. So if I wanted to find the slope and the y-intercept, remember the slope is the m. You can also think of m as multiplies x. The m is the slope, it multiplies by x. M is the slope, it multiplies by x. So we know that the m is 4 because it's with the x, 4 times x. And then the 3 would be the y-intercept. Notice y-intercept is b. So that's that one. Okay, this next one. What number is multiplying by x? Well, if we have negative x, it's like saying I have negative 1x. So negative 1 would be my slope. So negative 1 would be my slope. My b, it's mx plus b. Well, it's a minus, so it would have actually been plus a negative 14, or subtracting is the same thing. So I would just say negative 14 is my b value. Okay, this next one gets it looks a little weird because there's not two numbers. But just like I said up here, you have to remember m multiplies by x. So if there's a number with x, we know that it has to be the slope. And then there's nothing adding on, so couldn't I say that there's a plus 0? Because that wouldn't change it. Plus 0 would not change this equation. I couldn't put plus 1, that would change it. But if I put plus 0, that would be my y-intercept. So my y-intercept would be 0, and my slope would be 1/6. So my y-intercept is 0 because there's nothing adding on. There's not a y-intercept. It really does still cross the y-axis, but we would just call it 0. And then my slope is the number that multiplies by x. 1/6 times x is 1/6 means that the slope is 1/6. Okay, now if you look at this one, there is nothing times x. No x. So meaning it would be 0 x's. So 0x would tell us that our slope would be 0, meaning that it would be a straight across line. it would be 0 fun, because the slope would be 0. Okay, and then we have 4, so y equals 4. So this would be the b. So 4. So you can go back up here and say the y-intercept part adding or subtracting. So I'm going to go back over to my foldable and I'm going to add that note down here on this flap. Or no, I'll just add it right here. Multiplies with x. Notice it's mx. So it multiplies with x. The b, notice that's the part that's adding on. So if I didn't have an mx part, it would just be the b. So adds or subtracts. Oh, you couldn't see it. Adds or subtracts. Okay, we have 2 more examples, and then you can get to the assignment. So now it says write the equation from slope and y-intercept. So it's going to be y equals m, which is 1/2. M always multiplies by x, so it would be mx plus -2. So our final equation would just be y equals 1/2 x minus 2. We don't, math people are lazy, and they don't want to write plus a negative. They're going to just change that to subtraction. Adding a negative number is the same thing as subtracting. If the bank gives you -$, they're actually taking money away. Okay, then this last one, y equals, the m multiplies by x. You're going to hear me say that over and over. So -4x, and then 1. So since it's a positive number, I would just put plus and then 1. So our final equation would just be y equals -4x plus 1. So again, m multiplies by x. M times x plus b. mx plus b. I'm going to go back and say that again. Y equals mx plus b.